We are live. Welcome everybody who is watching tonight. It's D1 Racing X IDRL Pro League Season 2, week number 5 on the 16th of August. And we are with D1 Racing and IDRL. We have race number 1 lined up with a few pilots out here. And tonight we're going to race with 5 pilots on the board. On the bottom left, you can see we have Verdna FPV, Adiputra and Is, and then KXA, FPB, and Napster. So 5 pilots racing in a heat of 1 to 6 heats, and then we'll be distributing the points as usual. The first place will be getting 60 points, the second will be 50, 40, 30, 20, and so on. We thank our special sponsor today. Again, it's a Beta FPV, and also our local sponsors, One Martian Way, IRC, GetTBS.in, Quadcopters, and Zine Drone Racing. Hope all of you are able to see the AV live and clear, and do chip in with your comments and let us know how's it all going. So we'll be looking forward to your excellent feedback. Today we have a very wide and multi-terrain kind of a racetrack. It feels amazing to be here with these pilots racing, and it's a kind of a very unique track and very a creative track that's been designed by the awesome team at D1 Racing. We'll show you around the track while the pilots are practicing a bit. But let's see what's here on the track at the moment. We have a huge bridge that's across the water, and you can see some of the cars riding out there on the bridge. There's a water body. We are right now following the trail of KXA. There's also a highway that goes through some of the D1 Racing gates. And then there are these very tall skyscraper-like structures. These are almost like, looks like there is a hotel building out there. And then right on the top, we have kind of a runway for some kind of an airplane landing with a lot of palm trees in between. So it's got a perfect Californian feel to it. And the weather is very nice out here, and the pilots look all ready. So let's tune in to one of these pilots through the FPV view and see how the pilot is traversing this track. You can see from the FPV view is FPV views feed out there. There are a few horizontal gates out there that are resulting into a loop, some of the tricky loops that the pilots have to cover. And those are the challenging aspects that each of these pilots will have to master if they have to get a very good timing on this kind of a track. So that's where we are. One more pilot, if we are able to cover before we start the race, Verdna FPV. He has been an awesome pilot that you have seen over the last few races. And he is at the top of the leaderboard right now. It will be interesting to see how Verdna tackles this track. Looks like he's got some very fine lines. And also Adiputra, who is his kind of arch rival, will be also looking to get a hand over Verdna. So let's begin the race at the count of less than 5. Let's not delay any further. And let's be on the podium and start the race in less than 5. There you go, the first heat coming up. We are tuned into the eye of Adiputra. And the pilot who is right on the board out there is Verdna. So let's follow Verdna. And Verdna right now tackling around the water body, going through those D1 gates. Those D1 gates are a little bit tricky. Okay, all right. So we will have to scrap this race out. Let's treat this as a practice race, and we'll stop this race. So we will have to reset Napster on flying and then restart the race. All right, so everybody looks good. And so pilots, without any further delay, at the count of less than 5. This time, the leader of the last practice round, Verdna FPV, you can see on your screen. And the pilots will be jumping into the race one after the other. Right now, let's see, Adiputra has quickly taken off right in front of Verdna. but Verdna is not going to leave a spot, the number one that he has held on for a very long time. And Napster, look at that. Napster is going to give Verdna a very, very tough competition, looks like, because Napster is determined. The last one that we saw from Napster, his performance was not really that good, but this time he is in line with the track. And also, is FPV now coming in? So is FPV is at gate number 22 on lap number 1, but Verdna is far ahead of the competition right now, already in lap number 2, almost about 10 gates behind the last competition. Napster trying to kick in very, very early behind Verdna, but it seems like he's having a little bit of a trouble out there. Vodna is already way past that runway out there at the top. So he'll be already getting under the bridge, looping around over that bridge, getting around the water body, and coming into the skyscraper buildings once again, while we see Napster, who is again, he looks like he's stopped a little bit out there at gate number 23, which allows KXA now to gather the number 2 spot. Looks like Napster had a major crash from which he had to recover. And behind KXA now is Ariputra. So if we look at it from the third person view of Ariputra, KXA, and Verdna, we will be able to see some of these pilots. Look at that huge rise that these pilots have to do. It's quite a huge one that they have to go through. And then you can see this runway surrounded by the palm trees. There's also beautiful Blue Ridge Gate out there. And the bridge you can see from the top view is quite nicely set up in between the multi-terrain environment. The only pilots that are remaining to now complete the track as Napster loops through around the bridge and gets past the lap into position number 5. And that's so far the story. And let's see what the pilot readings are out here. So Verdna captures the number 1 spot with 1 minute 31 seconds, and KXA, he wasn't looking anywhere close. Adiputra was closer than him, but eventually KXA was at 1 minute 53 seconds. Adiputra 1 minute 56. He'll be a little disappointed to not capture number 2 spot. Napster was looking healthy at lap number 1 in number 2 spot behind Verdna, but ultimately he finished a good distance away at spot number 4. And is FPV finally, look at that, just a few milliseconds away, about 600 milliseconds of difference between Napster and is FPV. So looks like we are all tuned in, and we have updated the scoreboard for you. Let's take a quick look at the scorecard. Verdna, as usual, 60, and then KXA 50, Adiputra 40, is at 20 at the bottom, and Napster in between at 30. So let's go, pilots. Now at the count of less than 5, heat number 2 coming up for you guys. Fantastic takeoff. All of these pilots are very close to each other. They like to run in an ensemble when they really start, and the difference really starts accelerating once they start getting near that highway, and then the high rise that they have to take over the skyscraping areas out there at the runway at the top. So that climb is all that's making the difference out there, because there are a couple of horizontal gates, and if the pilots are making a few mistakes out there, then that's going to cost them a very early disappointment lag time in the first lap. So you can see Napster and Verdna. Napster is very well behind Verdna at this point. Verdna continues to capitalize on his lead, and you can see how well he's doing that diamond gate at the top as well. So Verdna, a very, very interesting pilot, but also interesting is FPV, because he's quite catching up to Verdna at the moment. He looks like he's in a very, very fine form. Is FPV. KXA just a little bit behind is FPV, about 6 gates away from Verdna at this point. But is FPV makes again that error, and maybe is yeah, that's what is allowing that fine competition between is FPV and KXA. Let's take a look at where these guys are. That's is FPV, and we can see from another angle out here. is FPV. Verdna has, by the way, already completed his run. Adi Putran is very, very close out there, and Adi Putra taking the number 2 spot. This time, his determination has taken the revenge away for Adi Putra. So Adi Putra gets his revenge. KXA falling to number 4, and Napster still has to get in his finest of grooves. Looks like he's experiencing quite a bit of trouble out here. So with that said, we are now at a total with the heat number 2 again going to a clean sweep at Verdna 60, Adiputra coming in at 50 points. This time it's a straight order in the order of the lineup of the pilots in the way that they were qualifying, and is FPV 40, KXA 30, and Napster 20. So overall, Verdna is still leading 120 points. And let's go ahead, pilots, at the count of less than 5, and we start the heat number 3. This time, let's see if we can tune into some of these other pilots. Is FPV, as I said, is looking in a fine form, and he's going to stay right behind Verdna out there. And Adi Putra in the lead right now. Very, very fine competition going on between Adi Putra and Verdna out there. Wonderful to watch these pilots. Adi Putra has recovered his form, looks like, and he is very, very good at treating Verdna around those corners, as we saw in some of the previous races as well. Whenever there is a corner turn and whenever there is competition between Adi Putra and Verdna, Adi Putra is always leading at that particular junction. But this time, Verdna right at the top. Is FPV coming in at the position number 2. Adi Putra is dropping and dropping. He shouldn't be dropping any further because the KXA is right behind him. And right now, is FPV is at the runway behind Verdna. He's almost at the tail of Verdna out here. Looks like he's going to get it hot and ready for Verdna unless he makes a few mistakes. Looks like it had a bit of hesitation around the bridge that he was looping around. And is FPV and Adi Putra right in great competition right now. Look at that. And Adi Putra, the master of turning at any given point. He is not going to leave either is or Verdna at any given point in the game, and he is good at climbing and going around those finest of turns. So let's see where Verdna is. Verdna has completed. Is FPV and Adi Putra, both these are pilots, and is FPV has made it in the end. Look at that. What a fine takeover right at the very end of this heat. And it was less than 500, 600 milliseconds. So that was close as a blink of an eye between is FPV and Adi Putra. Adi Putra will be definitely disappointed, landing up just milliseconds behind is FPV at the very tail end, and KXA picks it up at position number 4 with the same story going on for Napster. At this point, there was a little bit of a reordering. This gives is FPV a little better chance now to come into the game. Verdna with the 180 points out there, all 3 points, all 3 heats being taken away by Verdna. And then we have on the lineup Adi Putra, is FPV, and KXA. Both are tallying up at 110 points. And down below, we have 70 points total for Napster 2081. So that is heat number 3, and we'll be taking a quick 3-minute break right now for the pilots to help them recover. And if you guys want to take up some of your soda and popcorn, do get in, because some of the final 3 heats are going to come up in any time now in the next 3 minutes, while we give a quick recap of what has happened so far. So far we have seen that Verdna, as always, he has dominated right from the start. We wouldn't actually see him dominate this early, but from the last couple races, he has been doing a clean sweep. So it's really going to be another moral booster for Verdna FPV. And I was actually also very, very impressed by is FPV, because is FPV is not somebody you can really see that you can bet upon him right from the start. But this time he's looking in very fine power, and he has really he took away the game from Adi Putra at the very last second out there. So a tough competition we're going to anticipate between Iz and Adi Putra. But Wardna is always, he's far ahead of the competition unless one of these pilots really gets behind him from the very start. And they were very close, but yet too close, yet too far for the rest of the pilots. And KXA FPV is also doing quite well, but overall he is tied up with IS FPV. So not much difference out there between IS and KXA. And Napster, the pilot from India, will have to do some kind of re-strategizing. Maybe he's taking up a little bit of a pressure too much. Maybe his fingers are really not warmed up right now. So he'll be trying to cool up his pressure points right now, wherever he's feeling that pressure, and will want to come back in a very, very strong way. So that was the table lineup and the wrap up. And again, we want to really talk about also the great partnership that's been happening between D1 and IDRL. We have been putting up some very, very fine races, and we are also happy to see some of our Indian pilots. More of them will be joining in later, because some of them are off way with some of their other duties at this point. But it's good to see always this international competition going on, and now it's beginning to spread like a wildfire in the international community. So lots of folks out there now getting into the virtual arena, and that's good for both D1Racing and IDRL. There's also many, many thanks to their designers and the wonderful tracks that they have been able to set up. And today, by the way, we do not have Rati FPV. Rati FPV usually is another commentator that is on the expert panel that joins us from Bangalore. He was originally from Team Bangalore, one of the first racers at IDRL, and now also sits on the expert panel. So all of those who are watching in, welcome once again. It's halftime right now. Heat number 3 we have completed. And whenever we clock 3 minutes, we will be starting with heat number 4 and proceeding after that. So we'll be getting a call anytime soon. But meanwhile, all right. All right, so 3 minutes up. So get ready and excited, pilots. We are going to start now with the count of less than 5. Lots of multi-view cameras here trying to get the best viewpoint for all the viewers out here. Wardna again in the lead. Look at that, around that bridge. It's a fairly interesting and dangerous turn. And just before they loop around that bridge, there is also a horizontal gate that they have to pass through. So it becomes quite tricky at certain points out there. And right now, look at that. They have to go through that diamond bluish gate into the runway surrounded by the palm trees. It's all being led by Wardna. But look at that. Who is behind Wardna at this point? And KXA is taking all the run to Wardna at this point. There's not much difference between Wardna and FPV, KXA FPV. And oh my God, and IS FPV right now has come back. Look at that. IS FPV looks really promising. As I said, he is one of the pilots that we have been following in this round and in this race. And he is not too far away from Wardna FPV. He is just going to get back again into lap number 3, right behind Wardna, 4 gates away. Wardna still catching on, and Napster is coming back on. Let's see how much he's able to get a hold of over here. And IS FPV, if we can see him from a little bit of a different spectacle out here. Let's see how far he rises out there. Look at that. He made a little bit of an error, having a little bit of a trouble to get around that final gate at the top before passing onto the runway. Wardna passing it on in no time and getting past the final gate, giving him position number 1. IS FPV is landing up at position number 2. Adiputra will be definitely disappointed. Not sure what really happened to Adiputra in this part of the game. A Napster who was looking promising, he will have to battle it out once again. Again, disappointing for him. So it looks like the same story as it was from the heat number 3. We'll have to verify that. But yes, that's the order in which the pilots again qualified. Again, the same story, 60. Oh, this time it is, so it's going to be 60, 50, 40, 40 for Adiputra, and then it's KXA 30, and then Napster is going to be 20. So dominated completely by Verdna, assured the number 1 spot until he really, I mean, he screws up, but doesn't look like it's going to be Verdna's day for sure. All the eyes are going to be on number 2 spot and number 3 spot. So let's see what happens in round number 5 that's coming up in just a few seconds. There we go. We are right now following all these pilots together. Word now, once again, KXA looks like he's chipping in with that big leap off the podium out there. And KXA having absolutely no trouble. He's getting some big confidence boosters going on. Look at that. We can see finally the trail of Verdna, the tail that has been so difficult to catch through. But Verdna really tries to break through and increase his time difference first on that runway and then around the loop around this bridge. So that's where he gets all his power. And KXA is not able to quite challenge Verdna on those lines. So that is going to be somewhat of a concern for KXA. But Adiputra coming in, look at that. Now, interesting competition between Adiputra and Is as we see them on the highway on those D1 gates as they together rise around on those multi-lane restaurants and then finally on the final runway at the very top of the hotels, the big skyscraping structures out here, and Adiputra and Verdna. And Adiputra seems to be really focused right now. He wants to really get into position 2 very easily. That's what his game is. He doesn't want to really, oh, and then he's made a little bit of a mistake. That allows KXA to get into the lead now. And KXA right now is going to be faced again by Adiputra coming back from behind. So let's see what happens right at the very end. And is FPV, and again he's taken over Adiputra. Look at that at the very last fine end of this lap. Is FPV came back. Adiputra made again a few errors, and Napster again filing in at position number 5. Adiputra will be again knocking himself on his head and not too happy with his performance out here. So the story of this particular round, heat number 5, goes as 0.60 for Verdna. KXA lands it at position number 2 with 50, is with 40 points, Adiputra with 30 points, and finally Napster with 20 points. So a good lead away. Verdna can probably just relax now. Either way, he's going to get 20 points and he's going to win. But let's see. Interesting out there. Look at that. Very close between Adiputra and Is, both at 200 points. So pick your horse, guys. Pick your horse. It's going to be either Adiputra or Is FPV taking the final position number 2. So let's get started out here fairly quickly without any further delay at the count of less than 5. And this time, let's see who is in the lead. Napster is taking it again cautiously. This is not some round that he should be taking things cautiously. He should be giving it his all the best. And Verdna and Is FPV right now in the lead. Look at that in the very fine round. But Verdna again, it's very close between both of them. And Is FPV making that bit of an error. He is finding it definitely difficult. Verdna is aced that runway as well as the loop around the bridge, coming finally into the start gate. So who are the other pilots to look at right now? It's KXA definitely, and it's between KXA and Napster. So let's see if we can spot Napster and KXA out there. And Napster falling little behind now. He's at position number 4, and Is FPV and KXA. It's between them, two gates of a difference. You can see the tail of KXA right now through the eyes of Iz. Iz is trying to desperately get a hold of KXA. Oh, and Iz has definitely crossed KXA's position right now. So it's good news for Iz, and KXA is falling further and further behind out here. And Iz FEV in the last lap of his race, let's see if he's able to cleanly manage to climb the farthest of the towers and then into the runway out here. Because that's been the most prominent of the challenges for these pilots, and Iz FPV should be clearing this one, and he gets position number 2 and he clears it off, and he is officially landing it up after 6 heats at position number 2, with Adiputra taking the number 3 spot in this round, and finally KXA also coming in at spot number 4, while Napster again never really got off any particular chance or momentum. He got a little bit behind Verdna at one point in time, but finally it was a little too late for him. So that was how the game played out today. Let's look at the final scorecard that we have on our leaderboard out here. Verdna with a total of 360 points. Adiputra with 240 points. He has been cleaned up by Iz. Iz takes up the second position. Adiputra at the third position. KXA at position number 4. And finally, Napster at position number 5. So let's look at the overall scoreboard. Given these number of points, we'll be looking at the official scorecard that has been updated for us in real time. At position number 1, far ahead still is Verdna, 1,880 points out there. You can see clear of the competition. Adiputra is trying to get there. He's about 500 points away still. That's going to be having to win him quite a bit of races, at least the next 3 or 4 races consecutively to get hold of position number 1. But then the other ones are a little bit too away. KXA is FPB, Napster at 840, AJ underscore, we haven't seen him quite a bit, even Hornet and Pamilas and Dev, Web, Propwash, OSS, all of these pilots have been missing from the last few races, but we hope that they'll be pitching in to the coming weeks moving forward. So that has been the story so far of the professional league table, and hope all of you had a very, very fine race and watching experience today. Again, thank you to our sponsors. Thank you to D1Racing. Thank you especially to Beta FEV. Thank you to all the local sponsors. And thank you to all the pilots from Verdna, Adiputra, is KXA, and Napster, who gave us, again, a very, very fine performance. Thank you for being there and joining us. So we are going to tune out for now from our studios in Mumbai, from our live IDRL theater, and we will be seeing you next week, same here, same time. Tonight, it's going to be partying in Singapore. Till then, it's having a good day. Wish you all the best.